wonderful to see everybody this afternoon. I'm Brynn Saito, and I'm a creative writing faculty member and also the coordinator of the Fresno Poets Association. Before we dive into introductions, I want to first acknowledge that we are holding this event on the traditional homelands of the Yokuts and Mono peoples. Excuse me. The Fresno Writers Summit is a collaboration between the FPA and the Fresno State Creative Writing Alumni Chapter. So I'd like to acknowledge the Alumni Committee to start off. Angela Chaidez-Vincent, Carissa Ellison, Ia Lee, Mike Maniquez, Analaura Flores, Stella Luna Velez, Callie Camara, Melinda Medeiros, Sam Hide Tripp, and the fantastic and wonderful Jefferson Beavers. Can we give them all a round of applause, including especially Jefferson. This is going off script, and he probably will just, be very humble and kind of embarrassed and say, move along, move along. But Jefferson has done so much work to make this event happen behind the scenes, and it's really because of your energy and your spirit that we're here. So thank you, Jefferson. And thank you as well to the FPA for donors for helping to make today possible. Many thanks to the Creative Writing Program's wonderful student assistants, Angelina Leaños and Taylor Seals, as well as Corrine, Nicole, and Maddie from the Alumni Association, and also Amanda and the student assistant Jay from the Smittcamp Alumni House for all of your hard work and support today. So we're also very grateful to the judges of this year's Creative Writing Awards, and these were the judges who selected the award winners that you're about to hear read this afternoon. So thank you to Brooke Champagne, Tanya Nichols, Ia Lee, Anthony Cody, and William Archilla. So now I'm going to introduce Laura Flores, who is a wonderful writer and future educator herself, and she's going to be introducing the readers this afternoon. Please join me in welcoming Laura.
Hello, I'm so excited to hear everybody read today. We should probably just get started, right? Okay. Our first reader is Soreath Hok. Soreath is an award-winning journalist, radio host, and donut connoisseur. Her writing focuses on her experiences growing up in her family's donut shop, a cornerstone of the Cambodian refugee experience in California. Her works have been published in Wild Blue Zine and on public radio programs nationwide. Please give a round of applause and welcome Soreath Hok.
Thank you so much all for being here. So much of my writing is about really the idea of home and place. And a lot of the times these places sort of become characters in themselves, and this was the case when I started writing about a family trip that I took last year, and it went on a detour to a town where my parents started their very first donut shop 36 years ago. This is called Hard Climb. Tehachapi, a blank space where desert meets mountain and sky, a scattered place of wind and light. From Bakersfield, take Highway 58 east toward the Sierra Nevada, past the farm fields, RV parks, and cemeteries of the southern San Joaquin Valley. Then the highway dips south, past the Tehachapi Loop. Since 1876, this spiral track, carved from the imagination of a child's train set, has pulled rail cars at a steady grade up and down the Tehachapi Mountains, past the smooth folded hills and jagged tops of the Transverse Range. Here lies the boundary between central and southern California. Highway 58 crosses the length of the Tehachapi Pass where the brunt of westerly winds blow in. Here is the place where wind farms thrive, where thousands of white turbines grow straight and tall like an alien crop, rooted, alive. Here is where man harvests wind power and train power. Here is where pioneers knew that if the Mojave Desert didn't take you first, these mountains lay just on the other side. For 1,500 years, the Nuwa, or the people, called this valley home. They lived among tall grass and wild game, shaded oaks, pine, and fir. It's not certain what Tehachapi actually means, only that it comes from the Nuwa tongue. Words like Tehachapa, meaning sweet water and acorns, or Taichepa, oak flat with springs. But it's widely believed the name comes from Tehachapi, meaning hard climb. My parents' dream began here in 1989. Tehachapi was the start of the alarm at 2 a.m. and lugging around 50-pound bags of flour. It was sprinkles in every color and trays of crushed peanuts, cinnamon, and sugar. Tehachapi birthed bright fluorescent lights and the flicker of the neon open sign. It was when morning looked like night and the days became the elusive dark of sleep. It was where Shop took her first breaths of life. Last year, Aunt Tiffany told us the most recent owners of our old store, who were also Cambodian, one day just stopped doing business and closed up. The store had sat empty for months with no other tenant prospects. It was strange how we felt pulled in that direction, eager to see the shop again. From Los Angeles, Tehachapi lies 2 hours north along Highway 14. It takes a long, winding climb from city through desert, Palmdale, Lancaster, Mojave. It's been 30 years since we've been on this road. Wow, look at all the new homes, my mom cried, looking out the window. The Antelope Valley spread out below us in a suburban metropolis. Once bare prairie land was now occupied by rows of housing and commercial development. There was never a gas station here, my dad continued, pointing to a block of new businesses off the highway. There's so many people here now, my mom said in awe. I can't believe it. Pay attention. It gets windy around here, my dad cautioned. He spoke like a man who's known every dip and turn in the road. We pulled off the Tehachapi exit and made our way into town. Everything seemed tossed asunder. All three of us sat up straight and rubbed our eyes, feeling our way through the dark, looking around at everything unfamiliar. Our internal compasses struggled to orient a 30-year gap in time. 807 Tucker Road, my dad blurted out, the address imprinted on his tongue. We drove the darkened streets and followed the GPS. I don't remember any of this, I said, staring in disbelief out the window. Finally, we turned onto a main road, and I could hear the excitement in my dad's voice. Yeah, okay, I remember this now, he said with a laugh. Make a left here. Still, it looked nothing like the Tehachapi I remembered. There's a Chipotle and a Del Taco, a Starbucks and a Walgreens. By the time we left in 95, there was only a Kmart, one Jack in the Box, a grocery store, and a Thrifties. We turned onto Tucker Road and it all started to look familiar. The sign for the shopping center still said Tehachapi Town Center. I turned into the large parking lot and adjusted my brain to its geographic center. There, Shop rises, where she's always been on the corner. Whoa, I can't believe we're here, I said, pointing. The moment we got out of the car, my parents locked eyes. I knew at that moment how much they held space for each other. If they could have, they would have wrapped their arms around Shop and said, "It's going to be okay, my child. We're back. Don't cry." We stood walking around outside, trying to peer through windows blacked out with plastic wrap. The family that once loved her found her abandoned in a darkened corner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Soreath. Such a wonderful start. Okay. Our second reader is Dawn Parker. Dawn is a writer whose work focuses on experimental forms and themes of family. She graduated summa cum laude in 3 years. Her poems and stories have been published or are forthcoming in Poets.org, Abundance Literary Journal, and High, a literary journal, among others. Dawn served as the co-executive editor of the San Joaquin Review in 2024 to 2025. Please welcome to the podium, Dawn. Perfect, thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. It's really nice to be back. I have 3 poems for you all today. The first poem is the one that I won the Creative Writing Prize for, the Larry Levis Poetry Prize. This piece is called Arachnophobia, and it stems from the fact that I am terrified of spiders. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy. Arachnophobia. When the knots down my back drape like spiders, and my heart rate squashes my ribcage, I think that if my hair were a web, intricately designed with perfect patterns, I'd never have a bad hair day again. When I walk in a room, my eyes scurry to every corner to check for specks dotting the walls like blackheads, pimples needing to be squeezed until they pop and the red drips down the smooth tan surface. When I was a kid, my brother shared the Spider-Man action figure with me, trading it between rooms because we were Parkers and had a kinship with the character, until I dreamt of webs looped across my arms and I hid it under his bed. When I was older, I walked through a web in the kitchen, with baby spiders embracing their kin across my skin until I finally wiggled out of the cocoon and tried all night to fall asleep with my arms hidden beneath the silk sheets. When I sit by myself in a freshly scanned room, with my hair tied off my neck and my hands folded neatly in my lap, I wonder if I'm really Little Miss Muffet, with porcelain skin and perfect curls, or if I'm actually the spider, trying to reach the top of the spout, trying to be the best, trying, but only finding I'm afraid of myself, and tumbling all the way back down. Thank you. The next poem I have for you all was published this last spring in Abundance Literary Journal, and it is called To Gaze Upon a Mirror. And I know you can't see it, but since experimental form is a big part of my poetry specifically, how the text would look is it is mirrored across the page. So if you could just like kind of imagine that as I'm reading, but yeah, I hope you like it. To gaze upon a mirror. The eye that be holds a mirror to her face, the tidy perfection of the hair, pinned to stick pleasantry in place. The cascade of wavy locks like water falls her lips with an expression of rain. The brush to cover up a flaw, less faults of freckle and pain. The eye that lands upon a face so beautiful of emptiness. Wrinkle in earth, fault line in skin, crack to leave the gaze broken. Thank you. And then the last piece I have for you all today is probably my favorite piece to read. It's called O2, and it was published in High in 2024. It was the first poem I ever got published. Yeah, so I hope you like it. This is O2. Grief is like a hiccup, breath caught in the lungs. It's a time bomb. I can't hold my breath forever. The force in my chest exploding up to my mouth to gasp, to choke. The air is caught out of my lungs. The feeling repeats. An alarm goes off in my chest at random intervals. Irregular bursts in tandem with a regular heartbeat. Pneumonia is heartbreak. I am totalized. All thoughts are enveloped in the explosions. If I stand on my head, if I scream, if I force remembrance, maybe I can heal. Longing is the shape of my fist when it curls around my throat to hold back the burst. I can do nothing more. My lung is in my throat. My art is in my lung. Blood on my tongue. When does a hiccup become a cough? When does a breath become a noose? When do the trees give up on oxygen? Maybe then I can breathe, 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 breathe. Thank you.
So great, it was awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Our next reader is Sandage. Stephen is a writer whose influences include Edgar Allan Poe, Elizabeth Acevedo, Maida Vang, John Updike, and Pablo Neruda. His poetry and stories have been published in the Mid-Valley Review, Commuter Lit, Libre, and Pinky Thinker Press, among others. Stephen serves as the current co-executive editor of the San Joaquin Review. Please give a round of applause for Stephen.
Hello, everyone. So I will be reading my creative nonfiction piece that won the award. It's called Circling Fences by August Wilson, tracing the contours of love and loss. Quote, some people build fences to keep people out, and other people build fences to keep people in, end quote. You could have shared this wisdom with me when I needed to understand it the most, and I would have not gotten the message. In the sterile haze of the fluorescent lights and strategically long and crooked corridors, I faced a reality I could barely comprehend. I was 12 years old, standing in front of the heavy white doors of the visitor's room of the Valley State Prison in Chowchilla, California. My young mind burdened with the realities that divided me from my mother. Her drug use, her toxic romantic trysts that kept us from forming ourselves into a stable family, and lack of accountability for any of it. I was unaware of these facts. I was not unaware of these facts. I just wanted to believe that they weren't going to always be relevant. I was the oldest of 5, simply wanting to love the love I felt when my mom hugged me the last time. I wanted my mom to grow up and face the reality I was becoming too aware to ignore. I was a child who wanted their mother to finally be okay, to just be okay. All of it spiraled into this moment. My hands tucked into the sleeves of my blue oversized hoodie, creating a barrier between my ability to grab and feel anything around me. My body trying to recoil from the moment and the reality of having to see my mom for what she had done and maybe for who she really was. That was the first of many visits to come, never getting any easier and always painted with a sense of confusion, anger, and overwhelming sadness. My mother, with her perpetual heart of gold and opiate-tainted mind, now sat behind bars, her laughter silenced, her warmth replaced by the cold embrace of concrete walls. I struggled to reconcile the woman I knew with the image of a criminal, branded by society's judgments and shackled by the weight of her mistakes. I was so angry with her and would yell so many things to myself about how unacceptable her behavior was, and then I would always melt down when I saw her. She would look at me with those eyes we share, and it felt like no one but her could truly see me. How could the person who tucked me in at night, who kissed away my tears, was capable of any wrongdoing? The glass between us felt thicker than the steel gates we had to pass through to get into the prison. The lack of makeup on my mom's face let me see every single detail that she would have usually tried to hide in such high-pressure situations. I could see the worry lines more clearly, the bags under her eyes from being restless. All of it there for me to see and for her to show. And I always thought she looked so beautiful without makeup. No amount of prison stress or orange jumpsuits could change that. For years, I built a wall in front of those memories of those visits deep within the recesses of my mind, unable to confront the pain and shame that made me feel like a confused 12-year-old all over again. The pattern kept me safe from feeling that throughout my years until I embarked on my college journey and a remarkable play showed up in one of my classes. Although right away, Fences by August Wilson captivated me with the story of Troy Maxson, a man whose struggles very much mirrored my mother's in so many ways. Like Troy, my mother had built fences around herself, shielding her heart from the pain of a world that had betrayed her. Her fences were the drugs and the selfish decisions that had made her life up to that point. Like Troy, she had made choices that led to consequences beyond her control. Troy was a complex, flawed human being capable of both great love and great harm, and so was my mother. The more I read, the more I found myself unraveling the tangled threads of my own story. I would get caught up in what I started to call circle sessions that entitled me circling multiple lines of the play throughout my readings, using those circled moments as a way of tracing the contours of my mother's journey with newfound clarity and understanding. The circles I etched around those lines became fences of their own, not just marks on the page, but barriers, tall, thorn, and unyielding. They caged the fury I dared not to voice myself and the sorrow I could no longer contain, keeping them in and keeping me out. Each curve of the ink was an act of defiance that I didn't realize I was making, an attempt to control the chaos that she handed me, whether knowing it or not. And yet my hands trembled with something softer as I circled the words on the pages, something closer to forgiveness. The boundaries I created weren't just prisons, they were pathways, guiding me through the untangled web of her pain and my resentment. I hated her for the weight that she left on my shoulders, for the way that her struggles spilled into my life like a flood that I couldn't stop. But I loved her despite it all, and maybe those circles were a way to reconcile those contradictions and find some peace in the middle of that storm. Each fence I drew was acknowledging her humanity among her faults. They weren't meant to shut her out entirely, only to give me some space to feel, to process, and to understand. I'm not sure if I forgive her fully yet. Maybe that's a circle I haven't drawn, but I know the act of enclosing those emotions, of seeing them as a separate thing from myself, was the first step in release and forgiveness. My mother is the second born of 4 children. She was told that her father was the same as the firstborn, but eventually the truth came out that that was not the case. My grandmother, out of wedlock, had an affair with a stranger at a bar. Upon discovery, the father of the firstborn left. My mother, never getting to meet her real father, was left in a very precarious predicament for a 1.5-year-old. My mother's mom remarried and had 2 more children. My mother had to grow up watching her younger siblings have a father figure, someone to be there that she never got. I started to think deeply about how that would impact my life and how about I would cope with that or try to manage those issues. And through the prism of fences, I began to see my mother not as a villain in my story, but as a deeply troubled protagonist in her own story. She was just a woman fighting against the odds, striving to carve out a place for herself in a world that often seemed unfair to her for no reason that no one understood her pain and no one with her eyes to look at and understand her own. I circled a quote in Fences one night, quote, "I know I gotta eat, but I gotta live too. I need something that's gonna help me get out of bed in the morning," end quote. I kept my eyes glued to it as it felt like it captured the will to survive and continue amidst turmoil, just as Troy grappled with the need of sustenance alongside the desire for a meaningful existence. My mother navigated a struggle that wasn't all too dissimilar, seeking solace while embarking her heartbreaking journey on her own. My mother was not just going into romantic trysts. She was trying to find the love that had left her so cold as a child. Love that had the power to heal all wounds that my mother always told me and expressed to me. She was constantly searching that sweet elixir for herself. Like Troy, she was a survivor, driven by a deep longing for more than just a pure existence. She had a yearning for life that transcended the confines of circumstances and adversity. So I would circle moments that spoke to me and then go back to reflect solely on those moments. Quote, "I ain't got time for that. He's alive, he's healthy. He's gotta make his own way, I made mine. Ain't nobody gonna hold his hand when he gets out in that world," end quote. These words felt like they were highlighted on the page, resonating with the essence of survival amidst adversity. Reflecting on my mother's journey, I realized that despite her struggles and setbacks, she was driven by steadfast determination to navigate life's challenges on her own terms. I respected that. This line showed me that while she was selfish in her choices at times, she wasn't an entirely selfish person. She could have held on to the notion that life took her parents away from her and she had to make do, so therefore she wouldn't do it herself, but she kept on trying to be my mother. Even when she was high on drugs, she was never intentionally neglectful. She might have said things that she might have said things and sold things just because she was strung out and needed to get to the next moment, but she would always make sure that we had enough money to go to Taco Bell on the way home. I never felt like the high was her end game. It always felt like happiness was. My mother grew up with a void being cast aside and never let me like I was being cast aside. Through all my pain and struggles of trying to understand why she was doing what she was doing, even before Fences, I always trusted that she loved me and wanted to be a good mom. One session of circling resulted in coming across one line in particular, my favorite. When the sins of the father visit us, we don't have to play host. We can banish them with forgiveness, as has been banished for me. Those words jumped off the page and resonated deeply with me as they captured the essence for me of letting go. As I look back now on those visits to the jail from the vantage point of adulthood, I am very grateful for the journey that led me to fences. I'm learning that it's okay not to be perfect, that we have to take the crookeds with the straights. In those pages, I found a roadmap for healing and understanding. My mom might not have been perfect, but she never made me feel like she didn't love me, and because of that, I'm doing the best I can. And through the scars of the past may never heal, I take comfort in knowing that, like the characters of Fences, we are all capable of taking down the barriers that divide us, and we're all capable of building bridges of empathy and forgiveness. Thank you.
So honest, so beautiful. Thank you so much, Stephen. Okay. Our next lovely reader, Celeste Jones, is a multimedia artist and writer. Raised in the Sierra Nevada mountains, her writing reflects on the landscapes of her upbringing while exploring queer identity, memory, and belonging. Her work appears in Recollections of Being and the San Joaquin Review, among others. Please give a warm welcome to Celeste.
Hello, so I'm going to start today with the poem that brought me here, which is If You Ever Go Looking for My Heart, You'll Find a Boat Out Where the Whales Breach. But also, I have it in this fun little format of a Victorian Valentine, because I wrote this poem around Valentine's when I everything is revolving around love, and I didn't have anybody in that moment, and so I kind of pictured writing a letter to a future lover and what that might be, and then turn it into this Valentine. So it starts with, If you ever go looking for my heart, and it opens like this. You'll find a boat out where the whales breach. And there's the inside. Worn from a decades-old storm, I've worked hard to make it homely, because you see, I've been longing for something for as long as I can remember. A peace like we've never known, waiting miles beyond the shore. Out here, we fly pride flags like pirates, yet find no enemies. Our sweaters never itch. Lantern light is kind to our tired eyes. The oddities of the sea find us between espresso breaks, a good book, and sex. Whales pass by daily, sometimes heard before seen. The deep exhale of their powerful lungs dissolve our worries into mist, carrying them to our good friends, the seagulls and clouds, remarkable listeners. We are cared for by these inexplicable forces. We don't question whether we deserve it. In my heart, I know we deserve all of this without needing the whole sea to keep us safe. Definitely one of my more whimsical poems. And if you want to see this later, just come up to me. The next one I'm going to read is Gutted, which many of my friends have heard probably a million times because I love this poem. And it recently received the Fresno Library Poetry Prize. So go support your local libraries, but I do love this piece. So this is Gutted. I was never a fisherman or fishmonger, but I was a child once. Following my dad's lead, I reached through the trout's mouth and gills, hesitated at the texture, and giggled when my boy cousins couldn't do the same. My dad was never prouder as I slid my pink camo knife down its belly, exposed the guts, and yanked them out in one try. Then, using my fingernails, scraped out the remnants. We'd throw the guts back into the water, making it a game of whose went further and washed away most of the smell stuck to our hands on the lake shore. Fish don't make much of a fuss when they die. If I knew what suffering was as a child, I saw none of it. They wiggle around and then they stop. Now, when I watch the girl at the fish market place her blade against a sea bream's belly, I wince and turn away, trying not to watch while I wait. Everything that lives in water is filled with hunger. We cast the guts back to the waves for a reason, continuing an endless cycle, fish feasting on fish. That last summer on the lake, I must have lost my hunger in the water alongside my dad's sunglasses, and now I can't drag that old knife through anything but tape on boxes. Sometimes I think if you split me open, the same way I did those trout every summer, water would pour from every cut. Whether it was salt water or fresh, it wouldn't matter. It would be murky with sand, kicked up by the feet of kids playing along the shoreline. Now, moving away from this sort of theme of water and fish, recently I've been writing a lot about the road, specifically 168 up to the Sierra Nevadas, because if I ever want to go home or I want to go swim, I have to take that road. And it seems that every time I drive it, I have a new spark of inspiration that I have to try not to crash and put somewhere, write somewhere. And so I've taken those and sort of collaged this into a poem that talks about change. So this is well-known roads have a habit of speaking. I drive miles without radio, listening to the flies stuck in my car buzz until I feel it under my skin. What does it mean to leave? Is it escape or is it retreat? The wheels tell me about a storm, new divots in the road, lightning, gray hair blooming behind my mother's ear, the old cross nailed to the fence, now blown crooked. Orchard rows blur into silhouettes of lovers. Briefly I recognize one, briefly I could have sworn I was the other. The first stop sign in 20 miles blinks a warning. Wake up, stop, continue. I find the sky halved. East, stars glow above mountains. West, they are swallowed. The road carries me west, slowly losing its curves. Guilt lingers, even after the windows roll down. I breathe in this new home, but I still exhale mountain. Yeah? Okay. And I'm going to read one more, which actually appeared in the San Joaquin Literary Review, so shout out to the co-editors in here. But this is Can I Stay? I need to find a field of flowers and lay in it until the ache of my bones dissolves into a cool summer wind. I need the season's rain to wash away what is burnt until the smooth gray blue beneath my eyes is carried down to the riverbed. I need my body to know the lakes like it knows an Epsom salt bath, to soak until I am familiar again with my skin, with my body's kind, soft shape. I need the earth to cradle me in duvets full of moss, sea lavender, and mountain mint. Then maybe I will be ready to rejoin our restless world. Thank you, guys.
Always so starry-eyed when Celeste reads. Thank you, Celeste. Hey, our next LB reader, Stefan Leiva, is a tutor, teacher, and queer fiction writer. Born and raised in Fresno, he is a natural storyteller that utilizes written word and digital illustration to bring said stories to life. Whether they're comedy pieces about his personal life, drawings of his favorite creations, or the laughter and tears that come with being a fictional teenager. Please welcome Stefan.
Hello, everybody. Today I'll be reading an excerpt from my fictional short story, El Gallo Catracho, which is what I won the Creative Prize with. The story centers on Alonso Vega, who reflects on his past, growing up with an abusive father, and his present as a father himself, resisting the lessons taught by his father. In this excerpt, Alonso finally confronts his father for all of the damage he's done to his mother and sisters, and we see that same fury return 25 years later. As a warning, the following excerpt includes graphic depictions of violence. It doesn't feel like a memory because there's nothing I remember seeing, but the sensation has been ingrained in me for 25 long years. To this day, I still feel it in my limbs. My muscles threatened to burst as I ripped the monster away and slammed him into the cold stone floor. There was a harsh thwack to the ground and screaming. He had no right to beg for mercy. I could not see, but somehow I knew what to do. One fist, clenching his shirt and forcing him down. the other pummeling his face, feeling his nose bend and eyes shoved back into his skull. He was not allowed to say my name. I didn't allow him to say a word. My knuckles still remember smashing into his open mouth and being torn open because of his yellowed teeth, falling out one by one. My teeth were clenched nearly to their breaking point, failing to contain the hot breath spilling out of me. He deserved this. Time didn't exist while I unleashed this fury. At some point, he stopped resisting. No screaming or choking breath. I had forgotten what happened or how this started, but I wouldn't stop. With both hands, I created a wrecking ball of a weapon and slammed down, feeling less of the beast's sweaty skin and more of a wet pulp. The scent of copper filled my lungs and I relished it. He deserved this. My dulled senses came back to me once the light approached. The screaming returned, but not from this monster of a man below me, but to my right. There was a soft, warm light emitting from a lantern, and I could finally see. My father had no face. Instead, an ugly mass of torn flesh and leaking skin. He was choking on his own blood. My once superpowered hands were shaking as I saw my knuckles of torn flesh and leaking skin. I was covered in his blood. I was numbed at the sight, but what truly shook me was when I looked towards the light. Mama, Mari, Nella, and a shuddering Claudia, their gazes turned on me. I knew it all too well. Every time my father walked into the room, but never turned on me, until now. They looked at me in fear. The sight of Mama Rosa grabbing loose and using her hand like the lash of a whip onto his skin brings me back to the past. Different, yet all the same. I know why Luz has his eyes closed, because of his foolish idea that discipline will hurt less if you do. I know why Mama Rosa has her hand clenched on his shoulder, because it's easier to hit someone that isn't moving. Where is my voice? That's not his name. That's not your child to beat. That's not what he deserves. The long dormant furnace in me finally fires up. I don't think, I move. Time slows, but it doesn't stop. I launch out of my chair, straight towards her, and grab her hand in a fist clenched tight until I'm shaking. My teeth grind as my body struggles to keep my breath steady. With my iron grip, I rip Mama Rosa away from my son, giving him the chance to escape to the backyard. I'm too blinded to see her face. All I can do is scream. You do not hit my son, Rosalina. The release is so addictingly satisfying, and a smile nearly forms, but I am not that teenager that let fury consume him until it was too late. I remember my family, my wife, and my children. Then I'm back. Déjame, por favor. Mama Rosa, a proud, cold woman, is red with tears brimming from her eyes. I realize I'm still gripping her with a white-knuckled fist. I release and she cries in relief, immediately soothing her hand. They remind me of Mama's. Horrified with myself, I look around me, remembering where I am, who I'm with. My daughters, Marina and Veronica, stare wide-eyed in horror, then look away when I notice. Isa's face is burning red, warped from her relentless crying. Julia is furious. Me pudiste matar, hijo de puta, Mama Rosa yells at me. My mind flashes to that night 25 years ago in the summer. She's right, I could have killed her. In my speechlessness, Julia moves quickly. She tells Mama Rosa to put all the girls to bed. She needs to talk to me, alone. The girls scurry out of the room like scared cats, followed by Mama Rosa, who sneers at me before leaving the dining room. Once it's just us, Julia pierces me with a glare that could cut steel. How could you do that to my mother? You know how her hands are. Our son, our flesh and blood child, was brutally beaten in front of our family, and that's what she says? Without thinking, my hands clamp down on her shoulders and I start shaking. We can't keep doing this, Julia. This has to stop now. In my blind rage, I see the way back to Earth. My beautiful wife, kind, selfless, gentle. Her head is turned away, eyes closed, and she's quivering. Don't hurt me, please. Her voice is so quiet, I can barely hear it, but I know this voice. I lived with it. I release and look at my hands, large, coarse, and hardworking, hands that were meant to write, not be used like weapons. When I got married, I promised myself one thing. I would never lay my hands on my family. Today I did it twice. With my heavy heart, I lower my head in shame. Blinking back tears, I ask if I can hug Julia. She silently nods and I embrace her, wrapping my arms around her as gently as I can be. She clings to me to ease her shuddering. I whisper apology after apology, apologies she never got for her abuse. I will pour myself into every lo siento to make up for it. I don't want to be a man that hurts. I want to heal because we all deserve to. How could I lose myself so easily? Thank you.
Our next lovely reader, Angelina Leaños, is a Ventura County Youth Poet Laureate Emerita and a member of the California Poets in the school's board of directors. She regularly serves as a poetry out loud coach and a poet teacher, mentoring youth in poetry recitation and creative writing. Her work has been published in Urban Word, Arcana, Fruit Slice, and Read Magazine, among others. Please welcome to the podium, Angelina.
Hello everyone, so great to see such familiar faces out there and new ones too. First, I'll be reading two pieces, but the first is what brought me here. This is called All the Flowers the Moon Keeps Hoarding, after Noor Hindi, and I reference violence, but it's not explicit, so. I don't write about bombshells or machine guns. I write about flowers, the kind you find in your pocket instead of money. How rich each petal makes me. If only a garden could buy me a home. When I write about death, he takes the shape of my mother and I become more eager to die. I was a savior once, you know. In middle school, each suicidal child ricocheted to me. I know this because every room I walk in begs me to save it. What is a ledge but a portal, a way to unsee all these weapons we call people? Sometimes I think about jumping just to feel the earth grieve for me. When I do, I promise to bring you all the flowers the moon keeps hoarding, and one day I'll buy you a home with what little we offer our dead. The second piece is part of a crown of sonnets that I've been working on. For those who don't know, a crown of sonnets is usually when the last line of the preceding poem starts the next poem. So this is parts 3 through 5. 3. To bloom blood tree in softer light, relearn father being as his first child's name, Nancy, meaning grace, as in moments you've walked daughters and sons and nietos through flower nursery, occupied by pink stargazer lilies and white roses. As in moments you gave blessings to both daughters before their sacraments, quinceañeras, and weddings. Que Dios te bendiga, hija. As in moments you grieved miscarried grandchild and forgave daughter's unsanctioned pregnancy. As in moments you rewrote abuelo being, when eldest nieta mispronounced your title, Tito, and you swapped the cyclical strike with a smile. See, Lina? Part 4. As you axed the cycle with your smile, my niñez bound itself to your branch. For 5 years, I'd return home to Dodge Road, so obscure my school made a new bus stop. Years I'd pass you lounging in velvet armchair and smoking a cigarette on wooden porch. And years you'd visit during lunch hour, eating leftovers before napping to football. And years you'd drive me to restaurants that I craved, letting me eat until the fridge of my belly was full. Once, at Hometown Buffet, you told me of your family's greed, and only now do I understand what made their cakes taste so sweet. Part 5. I still don't understand what made your hands so sweet, molding gingerbread into pigs before devouring. So why did you consume my abuelo's youth so harshly? He says, no crecimos con ningún papá bien. Did you forbid them from locked kitchen as you worked, so only one room could bear witness to your gentleness, porque nunca estuvo casi con nosotros. When you were not judge, you were myth, phantasmal father moving between two countries, tender-tongued in neither, return always dreaded by your hijos. Él estaba acá, iba para Mexico. At 16, he joined you in a bedroom of 10 immigrants, and even in America, you still wouldn't bid him goodnight. Pero no nos daba gusto. My grandma said, a veces no tienen el orgullo de papá de decir te quiero, but still somehow he finds the pride, or is it fear, to claim you with amor. Thank you.
Okay, our next lovely writer, Taylor Seals, centralizes external and internal human relationships in her writing. The themes excavated in her work navigate Black American generational trauma and healing, matrilineage through blood and song, and her queer experiences. Her poems have been published or are forthcoming in Black Fox Literary Magazine, Flies, Cockroaches, and Poets, and Zong. Please welcome to the podium, Taylor.
So I have two short poems for you today. This first one I have to thank Brynn for. We're doing a series of weekly prompts in our class, and I feel like even when I don't feel like I have a poem within inside myself, I always find one from there. I know it's your job, but like still. So this one is after Barbara Jane Reyes. To proceed, you must first understand. It's a series of self-investigatory poems. And a lot of times I think about my maternal ancestors, and I always go back to music and blood and song. So this first poem is after the last question, which is 18. Tell me about the sound of your voice. It is untitled at the moment, but we'll see what body it takes. Untitled. Tell me about the sound of your voice. Something like cigarette smoke. Cool enough to scratch open throat and stay there, like burnt champagne, fizzed out on the end of my Grandma Linda's parlor croon, piano through the rhythm of my mama's teeth, heavy like olive oil, waxing the tongue, all the right blues tightening between the mother of our shared breaths, like the coals of dying fire, filling up my lungs with a chorus that sweets our blood. This next poem and last poem is titled Remothering. It's the poem that brought me here. I wrote it when thinking about my late grandmother Linda, who passed when I was 9 years old. But I think it's also an echo of my little sister that passed this April as well. And it's kind of me trying to take care of my mother through that grief, but I'm also thinking about my sister now and myself now. So this is titled Remothering. Mama is a vessel of grief. We know there is loss as she crashes through the hallway, and a photo of me, cloudy-cheeked and drooly-lipped, crashes with her, splintering the floor. There's loss in the way Mama sings, outdoing the acoustic echoes of our small house, every note crashing, colliding into staggered staccatos. And I begin to wonder what it means to mother. Our small house cannot hold her voice, nor cradle anguish, molding fist in the bed of our stomachs. And I asked how to Mama again, as her name becomes an unanswered prayer in a dark room. Her bed, a gentle altar, sacred with unwashed sheets. And I do best to fill Mama with warm trebles, make room for her name to alight, ricochet back into her throat, come up again in the soprano lilt of something like her mother's voice. I do best to mother the way she needs, drier warmth the day's clean sheets until mama is ready to scab over. And something like a mother's voice, lullaby-lipped and choir-tongued, rises with her. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm just always so impressed by the talent and heart of our students, and I was sort of just in the front row crying the whole time. So thanks, everyone. It was really incredible, really moving. Can we have one more round of applause for all of our award-winning writers today?